Arsenal drop points with a 0-0 draw away at Nottingham Forest on Saturday, but still see the lead at the top of the table grow. Gab, should Mikel Arteta be annoyed though?
Like, you're a competitor, you'll be annoyed because it could have been, it's 2 points dropped. You could look at it that way. You should be happy Arsenal played well. I agree. Forrest are a tough nut to crack. He can get pelters for dropping Saka and for the fact that Martinelli wasn't very good. But so what? He's got to manage Saka's minutes, is what he's been doing all season. The one thing I might pull him up on a little bit is Victor Gyökeres, I thought was poor. You got Kai Havertz, the best on earth.
Yeah.
But again, my Havertz love. The Ola Aina thing, come on, he's pushed into it. That's not a penalty for me.
No, I think this is the right call.
Tottenham lose at home to West Ham 2-1. More woe for the man with 2 first names. Though at least he has a new first-team coach to help him.
He has Johnny Heitinga coming. I'm not sure how much of a help it will be because Thomas Frank could be gone very quickly now. They're considering...
Maybe by the time you listen to this podcast.
Maybe by the time you listen...
Monday morning.
Exactly. They're considering his future very much. It's just between what we see on the pitch, which is poor, very poor, a little less away from home, but certainly at home, is poor. This game, they were poor. His substitutions and in-game management is bad. What he says doesn't add up either. He says, we do some things really well. No, you don't. All that kind of stuff. It's inevitable that he's under massive pressure. And I just don't think after being in the job for almost 8 months, that he's the right guy now. He would have turned this around before.
I'm very cognizant of the fact, especially with all the sackings we've had recently, that I could be totally wrong here. I'll tell you this much. I feel like Heitinga arriving, unless Spurs are the clown show from hell, suggests that he's going to be given more time. And the reason I say this is presumably Heitinga is there because Frank wanted him and approved him, right? Otherwise, Heitinga comes over to be part of Frank's staff, then you fire Frank, presumably his staff too, and you send Heitinga back to Amsterdam? Or does Heitinga come in as some kind of Judas?
I think he's a great interim coach until you find another manager. You could also see his
How would you feel if you're the
way.
manager and you bring in my successor? It's kind of like, those evil corporations where they make you hire a guy to train them to do your own job and then that person replaces you? I don't know.
True, but they briefed all week that they had constructive meetings with Thomas Frank, with the signing of Conor Gallagher, with the arrival of Heitinga, and now they're briefing that they are thinking about sacking him. So...
That's not serious stuff. You can't go like this from one week to the next, I think.
Well, I think when things are that bad...
But then don't hire Heitinga.
Well, unless he's there to stay. Regardless of who's on the bench, really. Talking about Heitinga, his former club, Liverpool, and Burnley draw 1-1 at Anfield as Dominic Szoboszlai misses a penalty. Gab, are you going to say it's variance?
It is. It's karma. It's the yin and yang equalization of the universe. Early in the season, they won 5 Premier League games in a row with all those late goals. Rio, 10th minute of injury time. Salah, 5th minute of injury time,
including against Burnley.
Including against Burnley when they weren't particularly good. In this game, Szoboszlai aside, and you expect them to take the penalty better, but it was nowhere near as bad as Brahim Diaz's penalty, by the way.
No,
I should say. You dominated this game. They could have won this game. They should have won this game, but it didn't work out, right? So it's balancing out. It doesn't change the fact this team needs to get better in double quick time. And Florian Wirtz operating wide again. What's going to happen when Mo Salah comes back? By the way, lost the third place match at the AFCON. I'm sure he's crushed about that. These are all questions. So Arne Slot's work isn't done at all.
Liam Rosenior made his Premier League debut on the Chelsea bench on Saturday, and they beat Brentford 2-0. Gab, you were there. What did you think?
I thought this was the first real test because Palmer, Caicedo, and whatnot were back. I thought they were very lucky. I think they could have easily lost this game. They were gifted a goal. There is a lot of work to do. He can emphasize the clean sheet all he likes, but I think he knows that they have a lot of issues to work out. This isn't his team yet. I think that's pretty obvious. Sticking with Chelsea, they're linked with Rennes defender Jeremy Jacquet. Jules, should they be excited?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, at 20, he's maybe the best defender of his generation, not just in France, but in Europe. Incredible talent. He's got everything.
Pau Kubasi says, hola.
Yeah, I would go for Jacquet every single
Heisen
day.
says, hola.
I would go for Jacquet every single time.
Ooh.
Part of that incredible. 05 generation at Rennes with Matistel and with Désiré Doué, of course, and Belocian. But it's all about the price. They want 80 million euros or 70 million euros. I'm not sure Chelsea are ready to pay that.
Otherwise, they can just bring back Sarr if they need another defender.
Yeah, true.
Aston Villa lose at home to Everton 1-0, which means they don't get to be second in the table. And by the way, what a story it would be if they actually had been second in the table.
Yeah.
Jules, Unai Emery was grumpy, and you can see why. McGinn injured now as well.
Yeah, knee injury. They've lost Kamara, I think, for a bit of time. Onana wasn't there too. The McGinn injury, I think, is bad, obviously. And he was very grumpy after the game. It was a very awkward post-match interview on
Emery,
UK
awkward?
television.
Never.
But more than usually, even. There's long silences. He says that they're not even top 5 contenders, let alone title contenders, but top 5 contenders. That they're basically not ready compared to other teams. And I know they are under they have financially struggled. That's why Malen has gone. That's why they might get Tammy Abraham, but obviously not the same value. So I know it's difficult, but you still only third, level with City in second, only 7 points behind Arsenal, who you've played twice already, so you won't have to face them again. It's not that bad, Unai.
No, I've said they should find a way to double down. But the problem is, and I think people need to understand, because I think this is an underreported story. If Villa had to reach a settlement agreement because they breached UEFA's financial fair play. And the same applies to Chelsea, by the way, which is why these Jacquet stories for 80 million.
Yeah.
I hate that. If you shift somebody else and bring some money in,
yeah, sure.
maybe we can talk. Otherwise, if they breach the goals that UEFA set for them, and these aren't necessarily break-even goals, these are goals where you're going to have to come back in from your breach before, they automatically get suspended from Europe for a year. That is what they agreed to in their settlement agreement. So you can see why they're being so cautious and so conservative. But yeah, it just sucks for the fans, frankly.
Yeah. Crystal Palace lose 2-1 at Sunderland, and Oliver Glasner goes on a rant saying that he feels abandoned by the owners of the club. Gab, who's right?
So on an emotional level,
I
think actually they're both right, because Glasner can say, wait a minute, we have the greatest season in the club's history. We win the FA Cup. We get into Europe for the first time. We should have been in the Europa League, but then because of this, because of who? Because of John Textor, we're not there.
Of course.
Not my fault. And we know we're going to have more income coming in from Europe. What do? You sell Eberechieze. You nearly let Mark Gay go. Now you're letting him go in January. Mateta could go too, as we'll see in the next question. What gives? I feel abandoned. I'm left here on my own. He's touched upon it before, but never to the same degree.
Yeah.
The owners could come back and say, well, lieber Oliver, if you were so committed to this club, maybe you would have signed a new contract and you wouldn't just let your deal run down. Why should we are a smallish club historically, we don't have an enormous fan base, we're not Manchester United. Yeah, we had this run, we spent money, we got you players for the run, we did very, very well. We might be willing to continue if we would commit, but if you're not going to commit to us, why should we commit funds that are scarce for us now when we're going to need a new manager in June, and he might like a different kind of players. He might want to. So I get both sides. Both sides emotionally are right. Intellectually, both sides are wrong, viewed from the outside, because clearly promises were made and weren't kept, or the ownership misread Glasner.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You can't have a guy talking like this. The Times, who are close to Steve Parish, the Palace chairman, reporting that he's going to stick around until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Maybe so. I feel first and foremost for Palace fans, because this is not what this season was supposed to look like. Now, sticking with Palace, Jean-Philippe Mateta could be the next start to exit, which would obviously fuel further frustration from Glasner. He's linked to Juve. Does it make sense for Juve, Jules?
I mean, yes, because they obviously don't have a number now. Oh, Vlahovic, Openda, David, they play one up front. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I know it's a profile that they don't have, I guess you could say.
Unless
probably.
Vlahovic is fit.
Yeah, but even that, Vlahovic maybe probably a bit more still dynamic than Mateta, old school kind of number 9. I don't know. 25 million, really? So it would be a loan, like with a fee, with an obligation to buy in the summer. I can see from him why he would want to be to a club like Juve. Amazing dream come true. he's had a career where he struggled to make a name for himself. Now finally he's there. He can maybe go to the World Cup. Okay, all that. Make the most of it now, no problem. But from a Juve point of view, I'm not too sure.
Also, from Juve's perspective, you do not have a lot of resources.
Yeah, a lot of money, right?
He's going to be 29 years old in June.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's finished, but you won't have any resale. Why do this? And I know Vlahovic is leaving, but Vlahovic is coming back in March. If you can't win without that kind of figure between now and the end of the season, you'll have Vlahovic, and then maybe he'll stick around. Vlahovic will be very motivated when he comes back, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Because he's facing free agency, and then cross that bridge later. To me, this doesn't make sense at all.